Have you ever felt like you were born for more? Like something powerful is stirring inside you, waiting to be unleashed? That's not your imagination. That's your calling. You weren't meant to just exist. You were chosen, handpicked by a force greater than this world to awaken, rise, and lead. You are not average. You are not random. You are part of a sacred blueprint woven through time. And this very moment is your invitation to remember who you are. This isn't about hype or hollow motivation. This is divine truth. Deep inside, you carry 7 powerful forces, gifts etched into your soul by the divine itself. They are not skills you learn. They are powers you unlock. Each one is a flame, and together they form the fire of your divine purpose. This journey isn't just about personal growth. It's about spiritual evolution, impact, and legacy. These powers are your inheritance. They were given to you so you could walk in truth, move mountains, heal what's broken, and lead others into their awakening. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Chosen one, unlock your 7 divine powers. The time is now. Let's begin. This is your moment. Hit subscribe now and step into something greater. Don't miss out. Underneath the surface of perception lies a rare force, an inner clarity that slices through deception and distortion, revealing the core of what truly is. This is not about simple awareness or gut feelings. It is a refined spiritual sensitivity, a sacred lens through which reality unveils itself in its rawest, most authentic form. Like a tuning fork aligned with higher frequencies, this power resonates with hidden truths, uncovering meanings others overlook. It's what allows a mind to penetrate through confusion, to feel the pulse beneath the noise, and to make decisions with a precision that feels otherworldly. In the everyday world, this power shows up in moments when others are grasping for answers. Yet understanding comes to you not through analysis alone, but through a knowing that feels embedded in your soul. It appears in a tense conversation where motives hide behind polite words, or in a critical choice where the right path doesn't look like the easy one. You recognize patterns others miss, not because you search harder, but because your awareness dwells deeper. This is not passive foresight. It's an active communion with something far beyond logic. It demands responsibility, not for personal gain, but to lift others from confusion, to show the way when the map fades and landmarks vanish. It is a calling to serve, to illuminate, and to reveal. This gift isn't for spectacle or show. It's a quiet fire that burns steady and bright, lighting the unseen trails for all who dare to follow. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1:1. Just like the universe was spoken into existence by the breath of God, there's a divine echo inside you, waiting to be spoken out, lived out, and walked out in the world. Think of it like this. When God formed the heavens and the earth, He didn't reach for tools. He spoke. And what didn't exist before suddenly was. That same spiritual authority flows through the heart and hands of the chosen. You don't just make things. You birth purpose. You release blueprints from heaven. You build what eyes have not seen, but what your spirit already knows is real. That's the power of divine creation working inside of you. There exists within a rare spark, the ability to pull unseen concepts from the ether and shape them into something real, meaningful, and lasting. It isn't mere invention or creativity for its own sake, but a sacred expression of something higher, flowing through thought and form. When this power is active, the ordinary world becomes a canvas stretched between dimensions, and what emerges from your hands or mind bears the weight of purpose. Each idea feels like it already existed somewhere beyond, waiting to be summoned into this realm through your presence. You might not have the loudest voice in the room or a spotlight on your face, but when you move, when you build, when you create, things shift. What you carry isn't borrowed, it's been placed in you on purpose, for a purpose. It shows up when you sketch something on a napkin, and it turns into a movement. It appears when you write a few words that open someone's heart. It's in the way you see solutions no one else can see. Not because you trained for it, but because heaven trained you for this. It doesn't matter if the world calls it impossible. When you're a chosen one, you've been licensed by God to create new roads where others see walls. That business idea you've been sitting on, that song you keep hearing in your heart, that solution that keeps you up at night, that's not random, that's revelation. That's heaven giving you a seed. But a seed doesn't grow unless it's planted, watered, used. This power of creation isn't for the elite, it's for the obedient. It's not about fame, it's about faith. And when you step out, even just a little, you give heaven permission to move through you in extraordinary ways. You're not building for applause, you're building for eternity. So pick up the brush, the pen, the plan, whatever tool your spirit is drawn to, and start shaping the unseen. Because the Creator Himself breathed that power into you, and now is the time to let it flow. Whether in a system designed to solve a human challenge, a melody that stirs emotion from silence, or a structure that redefines space and use, the result is more than utility. It resonates. It's in the way your work seems to move hearts or open doors without explanation, like it was designed by intuition, tuned to a deeper rhythm. In moments of inspired action, insights land with the force of inevitability, and what you build often serves not just function, but evolution. These contributions radiate clarity and depth, calling others to participate, to reflect, to awaken. This is your moment. Hit subscribe now and step into something greater. Don't miss out. This isn't a skill refined solely through effort. It's a transmission, flowing through the open channel of your being, bridging realms. The power doesn't simply ask for talent. It demands integrity, vision, and devotion. When you create, you're not just producing, you're answering a whisper from the infinite. Each manifestation carries an invisible signature, one that subtly shifts the energy around it and invites expansion. To shape the future through this force is not a right, but a profound responsibility. What you bring forth has the potential to echo far beyond its initial form, altering the currents of what is possible. Treat this power with reverence, for it is not simply in you, it moves through you to rewrite the story of the world. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. Psalm 37, verse 24. Imagine a tree in the middle of a violent storm. The wind howls, the rain lashes, and the branches whip in every direction. To someone watching from the outside, it looks like that tree might snap in half. But underground, deep below the surface, those roots are gripping something solid. That's what divine resilience looks like. Not flashy, not loud, but anchored. And when you're chosen, that's exactly what you carry, an inner strength the storm can't shake. There's a power forged in the quiet tension between collapse and rising again, a silent fire that refuses to be extinguished, no matter how fierce the storm. This isn't about avoiding pain or hardship, nor about masking wounds with forced optimism. It is the sacred ability to alchemize pressure into purpose, to let breakdowns become breakthroughs. and to carry the weight of suffering without letting it define the soul. When everything around fractures and falls, this power keeps the inner foundation intact, stronger than logic, older than fear. You've been through some things, maybe the kind of things folks didn't even see coming. Heartbreaks that could have swallowed you whole. Disappointments that hit deeper than anyone knew. Seasons that felt like they would never end. And yet, here you are, still standing. Maybe scarred, but not destroyed. Maybe shaken, but not broken. That's not just survival. That's divine resilience in motion. This power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it's just a decision to get up one more time, even when it feels like everything's telling you to quit. It shows up in the middle of the night when you pray through the tears. It shows up when you keep showing up for others even though you're healing too. It shows up in the patience you didn't think you had and the strength you didn't know you carried. And what the enemy meant to bury you with, God is turning into bricks beneath your feet. You're not just walking through the storm, you're building something in it. That job loss, that betrayal, that diagnosis, that lonely stretch of your life, it didn't end you. It equipped you, it humbled you, it reminded you where your real power comes from. So don't let the storm lie to you. You weren't meant to break. You were designed to bend and rise again. And with every comeback, your spirit gets stronger. Your faith grows deeper, and your purpose becomes clearer. You are not fragile. You are fortified by fire. In moments when everything once trusted fell apart, when stability vanished and the ground itself seemed to shift, this power did not vanish. It emerged, fierce and unwavering, giving direction when there were no signs and fuel when strength had run dry. The refusal to surrender was not born from ego or stubbornness, but from an inner force that had already decided, this will not end me. From shattered expectations came unexpected courage, and from the ashes of one life rose the blueprint for another. The path wasn't rebuilt in comfort, but carved from clarity, grit, and silent knowing. This resilience moves beyond mere endurance. It becomes transformation. It doesn't just get through the storm. It returns from it with a new language, one that teaches others how to find their footing again. Every scar tells a coded story, not of damage, but of becoming. Others look to that quiet strength not for answers, but for permission to rise, to try again, to believe that healing is not only possible, but inevitable when guided by deeper forces. To hold this power is to be entrusted with a sacred mirror, one that reflects the strength not only of survival, but of rebirth. It does not shield from hardship, but it renders hardship powerless to define. The storms may come, the night may stretch long, but this power ensures that when the sun rises again, it rises inside first. There are those whose very presence becomes a silent compass, guiding others not by command, but through the quiet resonance of integrity. Influence of this kind is not worn like a crown or broadcast with fanfare. It is etched into the rhythm of one's choices, a steady pulse that reshapes the atmosphere around it. True impact doesn't shout, it moves like gravity, constant, invisible, and undeniable. It's in the way one lives, in the consistency between principle and action, in the moments when no one is watching and the right thing is still done. Every gesture, no matter how small, carries the weight of alignment. A decision made with conscience over convenience sends subtle signals to those nearby, challenging norms without confrontation. This influence is not about persuasion, it's about embodiment. Others begin to rethink their own path, not because they were told to, but because they witnessed what alignment can look like in motion. In professional spaces, it's the unspoken shift that happens when ethical standards quietly rise in response to one person's unwavering stance. It's the ripple effect that begins when courage displaces complacency and fresh possibilities break through tired patterns. Leadership here doesn't come from authority, it flows from presence. In moments of uncertainty or division, this energy becomes an anchor, drawing scattered efforts into coherence. Whether coordinating support in times of pressure or fostering collaboration across divides, this influence awakens dormant unity. It's not about commanding outcomes, but unlocking latent potential in others, creating space for purpose to take root where it had been stifled. At the heart of this transformative power is empathy, not surface-level concern, but a deeper seeing. It's the ability to perceive the unspoken needs in a room, to feel the tension beneath silence, and to act in a way that reminds others of their own worth and capacity. Influence becomes an invitation rather than an instruction, a spark that kindles other flames. To carry this gift is to serve as a signal fire in uncertain terrain, not guiding with force, but with the quiet light of example that turns wandering into direction and hesitation into courage. This is your moment. Hit subscribe now and step into something greater. Don't miss out. Some carry within them a quiet force that doesn't confront pain with resistance, but absorbs it, softens it, and gently dissolves its grip. This is the kind of power that moves silently through broken spaces, mending not just surface wounds, but restoring what lies beneath, unseen and long neglected. It reaches beyond symptoms and gestures toward wholeness, where fracture once lived. This healing energy doesn't demand attention. It draws breath into collapsed lungs and peace into places long weighed down by emotional noise. It shows itself in the way burdens are lightened through presence alone, in the stillness of listening without judgment, or in the ability to hold space for another's story without rushing to fill silence with solutions. This power unfolds. It becomes a balm to strained relationships, dissolving resentment not through explanation, but through compassion that asks nothing in return. In places of tension, whether among families, communities, or teams, this force enters like a gentle tide, shifting things gradually, yet permanently. It repairs not just the break, but the trust that once held it together. What fuels this gift is a deep ability to perceive the hidden ache beneath defense, to recognize what has long gone unspoken, and to respond not with reaction, but with resonance. There is no need for grand gestures. Often the smallest act, acknowledging pain without judgment, staying present when others withdraw, becomes the thread that begins the weaving of something whole again. In practice, this might be a moment of de-escalation in a heated exchange, a quiet offer of support to someone too tired to ask, or even the unifying of fragmented circles torn by pride or misunderstanding. The healing doesn't always look dramatic. It might appear subtle, even unnoticed, but its effects are profound, often changing the course of emotional history without fanfare. To embody this force is to accept the role of a restorer, of balance, of connection, of trust. Healing is not merely about fixing what is broken. It is about returning what was lost: safety, dignity, hope. To carry this ability is to be entrusted with invisible threads that, once rewoven, give life a shape more sacred than before. Every act of healing, no matter how quiet, becomes an act of sacred construction, one that strengthens the fabric of everything it touches. There is a rare force that awakens in the face of resistance, not loud or theatrical, but resolute, grounded, and fiercely alive. It emerges when the easier path whispers for retreat, yet the soul chooses to step forward anyway. This kind of courage isn't fueled by the absence of fear, but by a fire deeper than doubt, a knowing that truth, when carried with conviction, will always cut through fog. It is the quiet force that pushes forward when logic falters and the outcome remains unseen, driven not by ego, but by alignment with something greater. It appears in moments where values are tested under pressure, when speaking up risks isolation, or when choosing integrity invites challenge rather than praise. There are times when no applause will follow, no reassurance will come, and yet a step must be taken. This is not impulsive bravery, but an anchored defiance of surrender. Sometimes that defiance takes the shape of standing alone in a room of silence. Other times, it's seen in risking comfort to do what conscience demands. Whether in daily decisions or life-altering choices, this power acts not for reward, but for righteousness. This is your moment. Hit subscribe now and step into something greater. Don't miss out. The terrain it moves through isn't always external. Sometimes it's the battlefield within, when one must confront old narratives, face internal shadows, or abandon familiar safety for a deeper calling. The battles may not wear armor or carry flags, but they are just as defining. And within every act of courage, large or small, is the quiet echo of destiny calling something dormant to rise. This strength is a responsibility, not a spectacle. It is what enables change to begin in hostile spaces and what allows justice to take root where fear once ruled. To carry this courage is to accept that the road may not always be smooth, but it will always be sacred. Each decision made in its presence becomes a declaration that the soul refuses to be ruled by fear. This isn't about comfort or conquest, it's about transformation, initiated through action and sustained through unshakable purpose. Some forces reshape reality, not through strength or strategy, but through a softness so potent it disarms defenses and dissolves division. This kind of love carries no conditions, no need for reciprocity. It simply flows, persistent and powerful, into every space where hardness has taken root. It moves through conflict with the patience of rain soaking dry earth, not to overpower, but to transform. Its presence calms chaos and stitches back together what has been torn, not with force, but with unwavering presence. This love does not demand that others earn it. It sees beneath the behavior to the unspoken wounds that shape it. When met with harm, it doesn't recoil. It leans in, choosing mercy when judgment would be easier. In silence, in sacrifice, in unacknowledged acts of grace, this love radiates. It is the kind that absorbs pain without returning it, that offers refuge instead of retaliation. It's not the grand declarations, but the quiet consistency that proves its strength, staying through discomfort, listening without agenda, giving without needing to be seen. Beyond personal relationships, this force extends itself into wider circles. It becomes a quiet rebellion against separation, offering connection where there's been division, making space for others to be heard, even when their voices have long gone ignored. It shows up in action, in advocacy, in everyday compassion that bridges gaps no policy ever could. In a divided world, this love becomes the unifying thread that reclaims common ground from the rubble of conflict. What makes it sacred is not its scale, but its intention. Sometimes it costs comfort, time, pride. Sometimes it asks for silence when ego wants to speak, or patience when frustration threatens to close the heart. Yet each offering, no matter how small, becomes part of a greater current that elevates the collective spirit. This love doesn't run out. It multiplies in motion, becoming stronger with each selfless act, each moment of grace extended without expectation. To carry this power is to hold the antidote to bitterness and fear. It is a quiet revolution of the heart, one that doesn't just comfort the weary, but awakens the dormant good in others. Through it, healing begins not just in individuals, but across communities. It is more than feeling. It is a force, and in choosing it again and again, something eternal begins to bloom, even in the most unlikely places. There are rare souls, shaped not just to exist, but to embody a higher rhythm, carriers of sacred capacity designed to move through life as vessels of transformation. What resides within is not a list of traits, but a constellation of living powers, each one a facet of a greater design, forged to reflect purpose, depth, and divinity in action. These 7 inner forces, perception, innovation, endurance, leadership, restoration, bravery, and boundless compassion, do not merely coexist. They converge to form the architecture of destiny itself. Together, they are not only meant to uplift the individual, they are intended to spark renewal across the spaces that soul touches. The gift of deep vision refines how the world is seen, not with surface logic, but with spiritual clarity that guides choices aligned with truth. Creation takes that clarity and shapes it into tangible change, giving breath to new forms that echo divine intention. Endurance becomes the steady hand that holds firm when winds shift, transforming hardship into momentum. With quiet power, influence ripples outward, not by force, but by living in a way that ignites courage in others. Healing softens what's fractured, binding the invisible and restoring unity where separation once ruled. Then courage steps forward again and again, willing to enter uncertainty, not for self-glory, but for the greater good. And love, timeless, selfless, enduring, surrounds and sustains it all, grounding every act in sacred purpose. This is your moment. Hit subscribe now and step into something greater. Don't miss out. These forces are not stagnant. They are alive within, ready to expand with intention. They respond to attention. They thrive through use. Every choice is a seed that strengthens them. Every act of service waters their roots. And in walking this path, the journey itself becomes a message, one that others read not through words, but through the example of a life that chooses alignment over comfort, meaning over ease. The unfolding of these gifts is not for isolation, but illumination. As they rise within, so too does the capacity to awaken them in others. Let this awareness become a practice. Let every step forward reflect the sacred blueprint embedded in the soul. There is no need to wait for permission or perfection. Divine work flows through willing hearts, not flawless ones. In offering your story, your process, your presence, you do not just inspire, you activate. What lives in you becomes a mirror through which others remember what lives in them. This is not the end of the journey. It's the call to walk boldly into it. The world is in need of those who carry this fire with reverence. You are not placed here to blend in, but to blaze a trail.